Hey, welcome back, everyone, to the Work Hard, Play Harder podcast. This is exciting times, Aaron. This is our first ever live and recorded podcast on location here in Indianapolis, Indiana, at the beautiful Omni Hotel for the Mainstay Symposium.
Yeah.
Am I doing this good?
Yeah,
I feel really
I think it's pretty solid.
confident.
Normally it's about 10 takes, so we can't even edit it today.
I know.
So you got I'm kidding. No,
this
I'm
is
kidding.
fantastic.
They're normally one take anyway, so even if we mess up, we just let it go.
Exactly. Well, hey, thanks again, seriously, so much for coming back. Make sure that you like, subscribe, hit that notification button so you do know when we release new content. Well, we're really excited to be sitting here today with today's guest, Mr. Ted King, with Goosehead Insurance, bringing us some insurance knowledge, and we're just going to have a fun conversation. How are you feeling today, Ted?
Yeah, it's good. Glad to be here. I think third year we've been at this event. It's been really good.
Yeah.
Let's double check real quick. I just want to be safe because this is a live thing. Let's make sure that mic's close enough because sometimes,
you
just
might
bring
wanna
it out a
scoot
little
in
bit.
just
Yeah,
a little bit. There we go.
We'd hate to be missing the knowledge that you're about to drop on us today, man.
Oh, there we go.
So there we go.
And not to mention, and what I was going to say is, I'm so glad to have Ted, who's been an insurance agent of ours personally, and has also helped any roof company quite a bit over the years. But the first time that I got to meet you via phone a couple of years ago, and I got to tell you, you just have one of those voices that I like. I would love to pay for a couple of hours for you to read children's books on recording and sell that. Are you down for that?
Oddly enough, I've had people tell me that before. They're like,
Really?
yeah, you have a face for radio, but a voice for radio, too.
So it evens out. I like it.
That's fantastic. Well, hey, tell us a little bit about just a little bit about your background, maybe personally and professionally, what you're up to, and then we'll get into talking about this very interesting insurance market that we have right now.
Yeah, so been in the Indianapolis area for 9 years, originally from Raleigh, North Carolina.
Yep.
I can still hear that a little bit.
Yeah. You know, if I ever go back home for like vacation, it gets really bad.
Yeah, starts kicking in
and then
strong.
I get back here and it starts to go away.
Does your family make fun of you for having too much of a northern accent when you go down there?
No,
though?
they just say you lost it, sort of thing.
Okay.
Yeah. It's not,
So I'm from
it's not
Chicago,
too
which
bad.
has kind of a distinct, thick accent,
Right.
and my family from up there, they make fun of me for having a southern accent right now, which I feel like I have zero accent.
That's what I say. That's what I always tell
But they're like,
everybody.
no,
I'm
you
like,
sound
I don't
like
have
you're
an
from-
accent. You have an accent.
Exactly.
So we've been here 9 years. I'm in the insurance industry for about 6.5. Started my own thing 5 years ago. Prior to that, I worked with kids for 17 years. It's kind of my background. And the insurance world's been great. Lately, it's been difficult.
Yeah.
As of late. But love the industry and really love investors. We love regular homeowners too or whatever, but we come to this event for investors. I'm an investor as well. I've got a couple of doors myself, and we just kind of have a heart for this. So it's been really good.
Yeah, that's awesome. So what made you get into the insurance game?
Yeah, so working with kids for 17 years.
What did you do? Let's back up. Let's go back to that a little bit. What did you do working with children?
Yeah, so my degree's in counseling, like that sort of thing.
Oh, okay.
And so I was in those fields, and as I got older, the kids got younger.
Yeah.
And that just got harder.
Yeah.
And it was time to do something different. Now, my parents growing up, I'm actually an inner city kid where I grew up.
Okay.
My dad had one house that was like a rental home, and it really helped our family, not only the families that lived in it, but it was just a little extra income, right? And so when my parents passed away, I inherited that house. So I became a landlord sort of by de facto.
Yeah.
And ended up selling that house and then bought my first rental property here. Okay. So I was working with kids for those 17 years. I decided to get out, and I just love the real estate industry. I thought it was a neat thing. The thoughts about residual income sounded very, neat.
Right.
And so I looked at maybe loan officer. I looked at realtor. I didn't know much about title work, and then insurance. And the more I looked into it, I thought insurance would probably be the best fit for me.
Yeah.
So I made a jump over to State Farm for like a year, kind of cut my teeth
The
there.
dark side.
Yeah.
But I figured out quickly that's not how I wanted to live my life doing that. And this little no-name, I thought little no-name company was saying, hey, you should come be a broker with us. And I remember when they reached out, I listened, and they knew all of my sort of pain points with State Farm. I just didn't believe them.
Yeah.
And so I drug my feet for 6 months. I was like, if
Too
you
good
could
to be true
actually,
kind of
yes,
thing?
if you actually could do what you say you're going to do, then that would be the best thing ever. And I just don't believe that's. And sure enough, man, almost 5 years later, it's been great.
Well, I'll tell you what, some of this is making more sense to me now because I didn't know your backstory. I've just worked with you in the insurance industry. And as a roofer, obviously you work with a lot of insurance agents and stuff like that. A lot of insurance agents. And the reason that out of all these people that we worked with, we picked you was because you actually cared about people. Like when something happened, like with insurance agents, you can get bonuses for mitigating claims and like not, just like, oh no, and like making sure that people don't file claims, right? And with Ted, when people called in, he would always send us out. He wanted to make sure it was a legitimate claim. Yep. I'll give him that. But he would always say, hey, go get me a photo report. Let me know if these people actually have damage, because if they are, we need to file a claim and take care of them. You're the only insurance agent that I've ever dealt with that has done that. Everybody else was like, we don't want to claim, we don't want to claim, we don't want to claim. And so now seeing your background with like kids and counseling and caring about people, it makes a lot more sense now that I'm seeing this. So that's really cool, man. And I always appreciated that about you.
Yeah, I appreciate that. It's, I almost think with my background, when people have something bad happen to their house, it's a moment of crisis, right?
For sure.
A pipe burst, there's water everywhere, our stuff's ruined, like, oh my gosh, what do we do? And in some weird way, a calm, steady, like, we got you.
Yeah.
We've networked with good people. They're going to come help you. We're going to help take care of this. They're very thankful for that.
Make the process less hassle, and just, hey, let's get you back to whole.
Well, when we first met, I was just a year or two in, and I didn't understand the value of having a network and a team that's really an extension of your business, right?
That's a good point, yeah.
And that was one of the greatest values I think Indie Roof had for me was if you guys did a good job, it made me look good.
Yeah.
And other times before I had that working relationship, people would just use whoever. And maybe it wouldn't go smoothly or whatever, and they would always come back and go, well, your insurance just stinks. And I go, well, maybe it's not just the insurance.
Yeah.
Maybe there wasn't really a claim, to your point earlier.
Exactly. And I will say that about a lot of roofing companies, like they'll just throw shit at the wall and see 100%. What sticks. And so, like, if you're filing a bunch of claims where there's no damage, just hoping the adjuster's in a good mood,
right?
Or they can bribe him or something, right. You know what I mean? Like, that's not good.
Yeah,
right.
And that's actually why we ended up working together, is that you guys would go out, and sometimes you'd come back and say, no, there's no damage, or maybe it's just the gutters, and it's $800, and it's not worth a claim, right?
Yeah.
And you would keep those stupid $0 claims off my people's records. Yeah. And that's what I've always said. If you just be honest in that, you just get a ton of my business.
Yeah.
And Indie Roof has done a great job with that.
Well, we appreciate that as well.
Very much, very much. It's been a great partnership over the years, and I think that there's a lot of value in that, and that's something that I've seen just in the marketplace in general that has shifted. I feel like in the last, I don't know, maybe 5 or so years, where my business experience has always been like your business is a standalone entity and everyone else is a competitor. And I have to like kind of fight with that internally where like I'm skeptical of everyone and everything.
He is
like,
so bad.
Somebody asked us a question like, oh, what's your address? And I'm like, well, you need to sign an NDA first before I give you any information. And but that's really shifted in the business world, where having that network of support that can help you and ultimately help the customer, because that's what's most important, has been so key. And we're thankful to be partnered with great people like you to, again, do what's most important in ultimately helping our mutual customers.
Absolutely. Building a network is something of trusted people. I would just do it first, quite honestly, right? But I just didn't know any better.
Yeah.
And it's something that with other people that may be working on businesses or whatever you've got going on, man, a tight network with people that you can trust is such a big deal.
Yeah.
And I think it's one of those things that goes along with any business too, which is just like take care of the people, and the good stuff will follow. The success will follow.
Yeah. It was Richard Branson, I think, right, that said if you take care of people, they'll take care of your business.
Yeah.
And I think he meant that more towards towards his
employees,
staff, employees, which I totally agree with, and I believe wholeheartedly. I came from a business where it was customer first, which again I believe in that, but I actually believe more heartedly in taking care of the people that are going to take care of the customers, because ultimately that's better. But sum it up and just take care of people and do the right thing, and I don't know. I think. I'm just a believer you reap what you sow.
100%.
And so you get those things back.
So
Go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to ask, man, kind of switching tracks here while we got the expert in insurance with us. Like, what do you see trending in the insurance industry, where it's going? Because we noticed that like premiums are going up.
Carriers are jumping out of
carriers
states.
are pulling out of like those bad states that have all kinds of, like your Texas and your Florida, you know, these different things.
There's even carriers pulling out of Indiana right now for weird reasons.
Is there? Yeah, I think some California people got dropped. So yeah, what do you see coming up in the future?
Yeah, I think it's going to get worse before it gets better.
Oh, wow.
So we're up to, I don't know, 50, 54 carriers or something like that we can represent, and we've had 5 or 6 just sort of stop writing in insurance in Indiana altogether. They've just kind of hit a pause button. There's a couple that folded. They went under. Like financially, they just went under.
Yeah.
And many of the current that are still writing business here are just placing massive restrictions. And I think probably my favorite one to give there is Travelers.
Yeah.
So Travelers Insurance is a well-known, you know, A-rated,
great carrier for a long time.
100%. If you don't bundle home and auto together, like you can't just do one or the other.
Yeah. I've seen a lot of carriers are subtly going towards that, if not just drawing the hard line.
Yep. They if your rebuild, like on the home, is less than $200,000, they won't take it. If your roof is older than I think 12 or 13 or 15 years or something, like they won't take it.
Yeah.
Pause right here. That is a great idea. I just want to say that carriers should absolutely take on the Florida rule, and people should replace their roofs every
It's
other
15.
year.
Right.
It's 15 years in Florida.
Yeah,
but like
15 years.
you can't sell a house
Yeah,
in
it's
Florida
crazy.
if
Have
it's
you
16
seen
years
all
old.
that?
Got to replace it
Yeah.
first. Like it's wild out there because with just everything they have with the roofs, the hurricanes, and all the roofing issues they have because of the tropical storms. Like they play 0 games in Florida.
So look here, Warren Buffett, Geico. Go ahead, do that in Indiana. That's cool. No, just teasing.
So I actually, now this is my opinion, right? But I actually think the majority of insurance companies will take a Florida and Georgia type model when it comes to roofs. And basically, you'll get replacement cost up to 10 years.
Yeah.
And then when it starts in year 11, you'll start getting a payment schedule of the appreciated value.
I've seen those roof payment schedules already popping up in Indiana.
So I think that's going to be, in the next 5 years, it'll be common. It'll be the
Isn't
norm.
that kind of how it goes in the insurance landscape anyways, is kind of the rest of the country goes with whatever has to be done in like Texas and Florida, because those are like the big I've heard that basically the rest of the country subsidizes those couple of states and maybe 1 or 2 more essentially anyways. But then, those tightest of regulations represented in those states are kind of what then permeates throughout the country.
I think that's a fair statement.
Yeah.
I think the things that they sort of test drive there to drive profitability, if it starts to work, then they'll trickle it out in some other form or fashion in different states. But I think the roof thing in particular, because the truth is, me included, a lot of people don't think of their roof as a maintenance item.
Yeah.
They think
Right.
of it as an insurance item. And it's not designed, right? And insurance is not really designed for that. And so you're paying your $1,000 or $1,500 a year, and every 8 years you're getting a new roof that's $20,000 or something. Like the insurance company just continues to lose.
Yeah.
And one of the reasons we're seeing the rates go up as much as we have, earlier in the year, the insurance companies gave out their profit and loss for 2022.
Yeah.
And I think 19 of the 20 largest, not best, but largest companies were unprofitable last year.
Yeah.
Wow.
If I remember, fact check me on this, but I think State Farm was the biggest. I think they're a $70 or $90 billion company, and I think they lost $13 billion.
Yeah, I heard that.
Something
as well.
like that.
I heard that as well.
And so what do? Everybody's going to pay more. So 24% rate increases. They're getting off risks they think are iffy. I would say with my clients, 1 out of every 3 at renewal, which is almost unheard of, are having an inspection. Sometimes when you start a new policy, they'll do an inspection, but a renewal is not very common,
Yeah.
and it's happening all the time now. And
Yeah.
so they are not writing as much business. So with their extra time, I think they're fine-tuning their current business to be more profitable. And
then they'll start pulling policies
100%.
again.
So
Yeah.
we're doing 50, 60 reshops for people being non-renewed every month.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
One of the things I learned, I just had to do my renewal, and I can't remember how it works or what line it is. You guys both know these things better than me, but where I was underinsured was how, I don't drive $100,000 cars, but a lot of freaking people do nowadays. It's not, it's not everybody driving Camrys and things like that. And not only that, but like even just regular trucks now are like $100,000
More
vehicle.
expensive,
And so
yeah.
like if you wreck into somebody else and you have to cover their vehicle, you have to be covered at that liability
That's
limit
right. That's it.
higher. And so now you look at what's going on with the auto union strikes, right? Where they're demanding these pay increases, which who's going to pay for that?
Yeah.
People when they buy new
That's
cars.
right.
And then what's going to happen with the insurance rates? They're going to have to go up to cover those kinds of things. Like it's really interesting to see, and I totally agree with you on your point where it's going to get worse before it gets better.
Well,
I think we got several years of getting worse.
Even with like supply chain issues, you think 5 or 10 years ago you got in a small wreck and your bumper hit the guy's bumper in front of you and you're like, oh, my bumper's $1,000, your bumper's $1,000. We might not even file a claim. We just go to the body shop and get it fixed. And now they can't get a bumper for a month, and the bumper's $2,500 a piece. And now you're at $5,000, and then they got to put the guy in the rental car for a month, and it used to be a week. And
Yeah.
who's going to pay for that?
And I'll tell you what, one of our good friends owns a body shop, and like this dude can't even find parts for some cars. Like literally, he's like, I can't get it. Like I tried aftermarket. Like the OEMs aren't available. Like it's getting a little better now, but you're right. Like just the month out was kind of the norm, but like you saw it where they cannot literally even get the right part.
Yeah.
We had something it was like a 2006 Ram, like the little Pro van
the
deals.
ProMaster,
They couldn't even get the fuel line for, like somebody cut our line and stole gas from us, like for
sit in the
gas.
parking lot.
And so we needed like the fuel line or whatever just to redo it, to fix it. Couldn't do it. I think we had to sell the van because they had it for like 4 months. Couldn't do it. I said, just sell the damn thing.
Yeah.
We'll move on.
It's crazy. Then I've got a friend. He's a business owner too. He bought a new F-150, the electric one,
The Lightnings? Yeah.
Unfortunately, got in a wreck. Wasn't his fault, but it did something to the battery. The dealership ended up buying it back because they said we won't be able to get this part for at least 2 years.
Oh my gosh!
So the dealership actually bought the vehicle back from him and let him go get a different truck and all that kind of stuff. So
it's wild out there in every industry because I feel like COVID got everybody so far behind in every single industry that's manufacturing,
right?
That it's just like they're still not caught up because the demand was so high. They're pumping stuff out nonstop, and they're just kind of inching back. There's still shingle shortages.
That's what I was going to ask. Do you see the same thing in your industry?
So OC Duration is out right now. Like, you can't get the shingles. Now, it's been a crazy storm year across the country.
Right.
Like, Denver got pulverized. Texas got pulverized. Indy got a storm. Like, everywhere got some, like, pretty crazy storms. So there's been a lot of output this year. But because of the loss already and how far everything was behind, can't get them. Like, during 21, we had to sell on color. We couldn't even sell on brand. Like, hey, do you want gray shingles or do you want brown shingles? Because we may have to go GAF, we may have to go OC, we may have to go IKO, like whatever you can get.
Yeah.
It was pretty wild. But, yeah, we still feel the remnants of that.
Crazy stuff. What? Let me ask you this. We always love to bounce back and forth and talk with our guests about what they like to do in their spare time. And, as a business owner and insurance broker, I'm sure you just have gobs and gobs of spare time. But, in all seriousness, what kind of things do you like doing in your personal life?
Yeah, so I would say for me and my family, we love to travel.
Oh, yeah?
And that's kind of our thing. So,
are you guys like a mountain destination, beach destination?
Well,
you like to mix it up?
if you made me pick between mountain and beach, I'm probably going beach.
Hey, me too.
Yeah. I mean, do I like the mountains? Of course. One of the nice things when I lived in Raleigh, I was 2 hours from the beach, I was 2 hours from the mountains. So
that's cool.
Got to do some of both of that. But no, more beach people. Made it to Mexico this year. We're getting ready. We're going to go to Puerto Vallarta, I think was the name of it.
Yeah.
We're getting ready to go to the Outer Banks, North Carolina, see some family for Thanksgiving, that kind of thing. So
it's funny, we talked about this actually we live about 3 miles from each other, 2 miles from each other, something like that. And we talked about this on the way in about travel and gifts is what it was. And he was talking about how last night he took his in-laws out to dinner because, like, for their birthday, they never used the gift cards, these things, but spending the time and the relationship is what they wanted. And I was like, actually, that's why I started doing the Christmas gifts the way I do for my kids, because you get them toys and stuff, and, like, they play with them for a little bit, and then there's just a pile of toys. And then, like, the grandparents and stuff are going to get them toys, too, and then that's just too much. And so we started doing a yearly vacation. Like, I get it to them for Christmas, and then we try to leave as soon as possible, like a week later, whatever, whenever you can book the travel. it's a little expensive before New Year's. So
Yeah.
if you can hold off to like January 2nd,
Yeah.
the price is dropping like a third. But we've been doing that for like the last 3 or 4 years. Best thing ever. Like, it's the experience and the relationship, the travel, the memories, spending time with your loved ones.
100%.
Yeah.
The other thing that, so my dad did this with me, and I'm trying to do this with my son. We will have kind of a father-son like long weekend every year.
Oh, that's cool.
That's
How
awesome.
old is your son?
He's just turned 13.
Okay.
So 8th grader, and we might get away to Chicago for a weekend.
You a Cubs fan?
We've been to the Cubs thing. Baseball's
Say
fine.
no. Say no.
Okay.
Just say no. I hate
He's a White Sox fan. He told you he was from Chicago earlier.
So I in North Carolina, you don't really have a baseball team.
Right.
So
Same in Indiana.
A lot of people were Braves fans.
Yeah.
I was an avid card collector, so Frank Thomas was my guy.
Let's go. Come on.
So I've got boxes full of Frank Thomas stuff. But
Yeah.
So I've never been to their stadium. That's on my list. We did make it to a Cubs game.
To former Kaminsky Park.
Right. Yes.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
And,
If you take your son there, do me a favor. When you walk from the car into the stadium, just zigzag. A lot of bullets that part of Chicago right now. So just like kind of dip and.
and then we went to a Bears game, so we
Nice.
did that. Saw Soldier Field. I think
Oh,
my
that'd be
understanding
cool.
is they're getting
I
rid
think.
of that.
Yeah, I think this
they're-
is
Arlington Heights is where
Yeah.
they're
next year the last year.
No, I think they got like 2 years left. But I've got to get there because
Somebody
I've actually
correct
never
him.
been
I'm
to
sure
a
he's
game.
wrong. I'll
Yeah.
go with you if it's still there
Let's
because
go.
I've never been to Soldier Field either.
Let's go. Yeah. I've
So,
never,
so
never
that
been
was
in.
on our list. We wanted to do that. We always go to a Colts game every year as well.
Yeah.
But just something like with him,
That's cool.
that sort of father-son, connection. My dad instilled that in me. I'm trying to do that with him. So that way, as he's hitting his teenage years, there's going to be those normal riffs with parents, but he's also always going to remember those things.
Yeah.
So I think that's super important that we try
Extremely
to get
important.
in. Yep.
I think
That's
that's
cool.
very smart, and I think one of those things, even in the teenage years, if they're kind of assholes for a little bit or something, like later on when you calm down and your hormones chill out,
Right.
all of this stuff, and you figure yourself out, I did, and hopefully my kids do too. They'll always look back and be like, "Oh man, that was awesome of him," and you'll remember it later.
Yeah, you can be a great businessman, but if you can be a good family man, that's where it's at.
We were talking about this yesterday in an interview that we were having for a position for one of the companies, and you brought up the fact that how important it is to enjoy what you do and not just have a job. And the phrase that I'm getting to here on this is, no one ever talks about on their deathbed like, man, I wish I would have worked more hours
Right.
or
100%.
spent less time with my family and all that kind of stuff. And I'll never forget personally, I had a guy that I thought a lot of, worked with, and his wife passed away at a young age in her 40s from cancer. And this guy was kind of a mentor to me and one of a colleague of mine who were a little bit younger coming up in the business. And we went to the viewing or whatever, and literally at the casket, he's got his hands on me and my buddy, and he said, "Hey guys, I just want you to know, I want you guys to start working less." And we're just kind of looking at each other like, "What are we talking about right now, bub?" And he said, I thought I was doing all this stuff, all this hard work, so that way I could retire and we could have a good life together and retire and travel the country and everything. He said, "Look at me now, what am I going to do?" And I was just like, I'm an emotional guy anyway, so I'm just like, trying to keep it
Dose
together as well as I
reality,
can. But man, that's so important.
Yeah, so I think, you work in your business. Obviously, you got to provide. You got to provide for your family. You want to provide for your clients and stuff. But you want to be excellent in what you do because you're like if you got kids and stuff,
Right.
or even just to the community, you're trying to demonstrate a work ethic of excellence because that bleeds over into other people in their lives and stuff. So all that's still important, but also making that time. For the people that you really love and care about, it's such a big deal, and it's hard. I'm not going to sit here and try to tell you I've always got that right, especially when you start.
No,
Oh my
nobody
gosh.
does though.
Oh my gosh,
nobody does.
You put in so many hours trying to get your business off the ground, but there does come a time where you can keep pushing, and you don't necessarily have to, and you got to learn to delegate maybe.
Right. Yeah, that's a good point.
And then you can live your life right the way that you need to with your people and taking good care of them. So it's a lesson I wish I would have learned earlier that I'm working hard to try to get right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think whatever you focus on, you get more of in life. And so as long as you have that as a point of like, hey, I know this is an area of opportunity that I need to work on, like it's going to get better. it just, because, again, whatever you focus on in life, you get more of.
And I think that's back to the team building thing, right? Where before, if I didn't have my team that I would work with, I'd have to get my hands into a lot of stuff that I didn't have any business getting my hands into. I should just give it off to the people that I work with and go, oh, they're going to take care of it. And now I can go back, and it would just free up more time.
Totally agree.
So building that network, super important.
So how many shingles have you put on your customers' homes?
Never.
I'm just teasing.
Oh my
Well,
gosh!
that's
I'll tell you what. This is probably one of my favorite podcasts that we've done so far because, it's talking about family and the importance there. I think is more important than the business stuff that we talk about and the fun stuff that we talk about.
Yeah.
So I've loved where this conversation.
Not to
went.
mention, I mean, having a former counselor on the mic.
Maybe that's what it is. You just hit me in my feels, is what it was, man.
Exactly.
God, he got me.
Right after this, if I could actually have a word with you personally, I'm kind of.
I need about 30 minutes.
That's still $100 an hour.
I love it. Well, hey, this has been awesome. Also, I do want to point out, normally we don't talk about like when we're recording these and all this kind of stuff. Like we don't mention dates and times of the day and everything. But I feel obligated to mention that it's like 9:30 or 9:50 in the morning right now.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you guys heard earlier. It sounded like down at the bar there was a group of people taking shots or something like that.
Oh, I think we're at the Mainstay Investor Symposium.
Oh, was it
I
actually
think
in the
I think they
conference?
were kicking off the
Oh,
conference.
they were
all
is what
taking
it
shots.
was.
Thank God.
That or there's a bunch of Irish guys downstairs. We're getting ready for a game.
I was like, what is going on over there? No, awesome. Well, hey, thanks so much for being a part of this, man. We really appreciate it. On a lot of levels, being a part of the podcast certainly, but just being a great partner with Indie Roof, and we love working with you and your team. And again, it's all about supporting our mutual customers, but we really do appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you. It's been great.
Awesome. Well, hey, thanks so much again for tuning in. Again, make sure if you're in the Indianapolis area that you check out Ted King, Goosehead Insurance. I promise you he would take good care of you. But make sure that you like and subscribe. Hit your notifications. What else? I always feel like
I don't know. You forgot to do the hashtag thing.
yeah.
Hashtag says
Hashtag.
something, whatever. Add some
Yeah.
hashtags. I don't know, dude.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
anyway, Ted, thank you so much for coming on. We
Good
really
time.
appreciated it. And I'm sure that we'll be talking soon.
Awesome.
Good stuff.
Thanks so much.